Okay, so the goal of this training is to essentially create frameworks for the people that have reached their initial goal of creating anywhere from, let's say, $5,000 to $20,000 a month in consistent recurring revenue in terms of the coaching business. So the basic framework, which is the foundation of what you would have worked on in the initial engagement with me, is how do you create the desired cash flow that you want through leveraging one-on-one clients. Now, the value of doing it in the way that I'm suggesting is that if you're able to successfully enroll clients and serve them, you're going to get everything you need in the most cost-efficient way possible to get the foundation of your business. What that means specifically is the following. You will understand once you actually start to get clients coming in, you will learn exactly who you want to work with, what you want to help them with, the client journey that they're on. You will have the fundamentals of mindset, marketing, sales, and delivery, and you will have done that for multiple times with multiple clients throughout the process. So once you've done that, and again, it's not about necessarily collecting all the money all up front. It's not about a specific financial objective, but the idea is you want to have worked with enough people where you feel pretty confident that you're able to do it. Now, what might happen in this situation? It might be that your income is inconsistent. It might be that sometimes you'll hit, 5K months, 10K months. Sometimes you might have a crazy 12K month or 20K month and you go scale your thing back. So essentially, it doesn't mean that it's all the time, but essentially the idea that you would want to build out is that I more or less understand the fundamentals of my business. I know who I'm working with. I know what I'm helping them with. I know the basic foundations of where those people are found, what my sales process is. I feel relatively comfortable with the sales process itself. And I've been able to serve enough clients where I have enough data that's going to allow me to know what is that next step, what's the thing that I actually want to build. So that's kind of the first framework of what's necessary before any of the things that I'm going to discuss should actually happen. Now, again, the pain points of this position of where you are now is you might say, I'm still not making enough money. I want to be making more money. Or it might be, oh my gosh, I don't have enough time, to do all of this stuff. Or it might be, I want to work with more people and I don't have enough bandwidth. I don't know how to find people. It might be, hey, it's getting really exhausting doing my 30-30. I don't, I'm not really having fun. I've kind of really actually tapped out of my network. Again, in a lot of cases, this actually shouldn't happen, but let's say it is happening. Let's call a spade a spade. It's like, I've worked through my market. I've worked through my referrals and I kind of need something else. So the question is, again, once you've started to get the fundamentals of mindset, marketing, sales, delivery, you figured out who your target market is and you know what the delivery is for those people. That's going to be the first phase of the business. The second phase of the business, right? Once you have that dialed in, and again, it's not necessarily about a benchmark. I've spoken to a few people like, oh, I'm not making 10K a month yet. It's like, cool. But you sort of know how to do the things you know you're a dating coach, you know your ideal client, you know the amount of money you're spending per, the amount you're charging per client. You've been able to get that quite a few times. You understand if we get a person that would need your help, you can walk them through a sales process. It does not mean that everybody closes. There's no such thing as a business where everyone's closing. If meaning closing, getting the business all the time. If that's the business you have, you're undercharging or you're not working very hard, right? So it's assuming essentially you have enough data points though where it's time to figure out this thing, this mythical thing that everybody calls scale. So what I want to break down to the different components of scale and what you need and how to get there. Now, this is for kind of phase two. Phase two is you're going to be making, and again, I just like to use financials as benchmarks, but it doesn't have to be this benchmark. Let's say this is the stage between $5,000 to $10,000 a month and up to $50,000 a month, right? Again, to get above the $100,000 a month framework, you're going to need something completely different. So let's say this is kind of like phase two. I'm clear on sort of where I am now, and now I want to take my business. Let's say I want to take my business to $50,000 a month. How do I do that? So that's the kind of framework of what we're going to talk about today. Now, again, the very first thing that you're going to need, because you might be sitting here thinking to yourself, $50,000 a month, that's crazy. I'm lucky if I can hit 10K a month. I'm lucky if I can hit 5K a month, 8K a month. I'm excited. It works. I see, yes, I've closed clients for $2,500. I've closed clients for $3,000. I can close clients for $1,000, but like $50,000 a month is absolutely crazy. So the number one thing that I have to point on, and it's going to be built on a lot of the foundations of what we've already discussed, is that you have to completely shift your mindset. The mindset of the $50,000 per month entrepreneur is fundamentally different from the mindset of the $10,000 per month entrepreneur. And now let's assume, again, there's let's say a $10,000 up and down on either side of that benchmark. So again, the $10,000 entrepreneur is probably fluctuating between 0 and 20K. Right? And usually closer to like the 0 to 10K. I did 2K a month, and then I did 3K a month, and then, oh my gosh, it was amazing. I made 8K, and then maybe I made, so the mindset of someone that's in that bracket is fundamentally different from the entrepreneur that's looking to make $50,000 a month, which means that he will fluctuate, or she will fluctuate from $30,000 to $70,000. I hope I did the math right? But the mindset and the frame is completely different. Now, again, to be an entrepreneur who is doing $30,000 to $70,000 a month, here's what the mindset has to be. Number one, you have to be completely clear on what is not negotiable. What is not negotiable? There's no such time. And again, this is there's a concept that Ed Milet talks about a lot, is what is your thermostat, right? So your thermostat is always, where do you default to? So there's a certain thermostat beyond which you don't actually go below. Does that make sense? Once you make a commitment, again, and this is going to seem like a somewhat of a detail, but it's absolutely fundamental, right? There's a client of mine that is a dear friend of mine, and when we worked together to get her to 10K a month, and when I was ready to push her to 20K a month, I asked her, what is your lifestyle? How is your lifestyle going to be different at $20,000? And she said, I'll get another day of cleaning help. And I'm like, awesome. So what do you do with the other $9,500 that you have? She had no idea. So there's a certain understanding that your standards of life, again, I'm not suggesting to do anything that's, again, standards of life, you have to think to yourself, if I'm consistently making $30,000 to $70,000 a month, what is my life going to look like? And then the standards of life, again, it does not mean you have to buy a new house or get a new car or spend your money in any particular way, but practically speaking, how much are you contributing to your retirement account? How much are you want to essentially create in your mind, at least in the beginning, what does my life look like at that price point? What happens inevitably is they always say that you always fall to the level of your training, not to your best case scenario. So when you start to build out a lifestyle, which again does not necessarily have to mean it's an opulent lifestyle. It could just mean that you're funding retirements at a certain thing, or you're not in debt, or whatever it might be, right? When you build that, and that becomes your expectation, it's crazy how the mind works. You actually won't go below your floor. So you can't really hit a month that's below 20K or below 30K. So you have to just start with the mindset of this is what my life is going to look like, and actually have it practically planned out where it's a real thing. Because again, everyone likes to say, oh, I want to make 100 grand a month. They have no idea what that number means. It's completely artificial. So that's the first framework, is what are the things that are not negotiable for your lifestyle when you're making $50,000 a month. Okay. The second concept is, are you thinking like a $50,000 per month entrepreneur? Now again, I just want to point out what that means. If you're making 50 grand a month, you're making roughly, right? You're making over $500,000 a year. So you have to think to yourself, you are now positioning yourself above most attorneys, most doctors, depends on what CEO, but that's like serious. So you have to start treating that role like any doctor, any lawyer, any executive, which is that you don't really get days off. You do have to really work hard. You do have to take accountability. You have to realize, like, if you're making more than a doctor has sacrificed probably 12 years before they go out and make $1, right? So the level of accountability that you have to take for yourself, the level of ownership that you have to take for yourself, the level of investment you're willing to make in yourself has to reflect that. Right? You can't be I'm thinking about building a coaching business, or if nobody comes in, is it a big deal? Or gosh, I want to blame my mom, me, anyone, like, for the things that not working, right? I had a conversation actually today with a client of mine where he was talking about a networking group that he wants to get into. And the networking group is around accountability. Now he said, should I join the networking group? Now he might need help with accountability, but the clients he's wanting to work with, i.e. people that have money, they're not worried about accountability. No one has to, I hold myself accountable, right? And if you speak to people that have built businesses, again, not a highly paid employee, but someone who's built a business, you cannot make a business doing $30,000 to $70,000 a month unless you are not only accountable, you are hungry to do it. Like, you can't stop this person. You will work whenever it takes, whatever it takes. You will go into debt to raise your thing. Like, again, think about what it actually takes to build a real business, right? A lot of us don't have that mentality at as you're building up to 10K. That's a skill set that you'll have to adopt as you go beyond 10K. So framework number one is mindset. Mindset, mindset, mindset. Everyone hates it except that you're in the mindset coaching business. So that's what you have to shift if you want to actually start to make the fundamental changes. Now let's jump into strategy. Number one, there are basically 3 factors that you can play with in order to grow your business from 5K to 50K, right? 3 things that you can manipulate. One is time, the second is income, and the third is person. And then the fourth one's tech. And I hope to get through all of those rapidly. Okay, number 1, time. So the biggest question is, how much time, how do you manipulate time in order to make more money? The first thing you need is efficiency, right? So the amount of time it takes, and this has been something that quite a few people who have wanted to scale have shifted, is I don't have time to focus on things that aren't income generating. Right? Essentially, you have to shift your mindset from, again, like when you begin the coaching process with me, you're thinking to yourself, wow, I can work really hard on serving clients. I like that, but gaining clients, that's tough, so I'm going to work on that. Eventually, if you want to move to that role of a $30,000 to $70,000 entrepreneur, you have to love and be super efficient in income generating activities. Now, again, a lot of people at the beginning who are kind of playing or learning or growing in their entrepreneurial journey will say, wow, okay, well, coming on a group call, that's going to hopefully help me make money. Oh, I'm going to read a book on entrepreneurship. That's going to hopefully make money. I might try to do a webinar. That might help me make money. What has to shift if you want to go from 30 to 70 is your time is incredibly valuable. Again, if you think about the cost of closing a client, right, and how long it takes, let's say you can get a $2,000 client in a 30-minute phone call. Let's say you did it once. So now you have to realize your hour is a $4,000 hour. So then you think to yourself, is what I'm doing now going to generate $4,000? Is there even a chance that will generate $4,000 for me in my business? So again, usually what it's going to look like is no. So if I'm on the call with someone and the person I'm talking to doesn't seem like a fit, or the person I'm talking to seems like it can take a really long time to close, the downside of that is you have to realize that you are literally giving $4,000. Now, I don't know about you. I don't like to give $400 unless it's like a loved friend or neighbor or relative. I wouldn't give it to a neighbor. Like a friend or a relative, something like that. But $4,000, like that's a serious investment. If that makes sense, like that's like the kind of money you'd give to your kids, kind of a thing. And it's the kind of money that can actually change your kid's life. That's a small donation to your kid's summer program or something like that, or their education fund. So you have to start thinking, the time that I have, I do not want to waste it with people that can't fit with me. Also, I don't want to drag out. A lot of times people in the earlier coaching process would rather have their diagnosis calls take 4 times, and then their cure calls take 8 times. So now you spend 25 hours with this client in order, then you get the no, and then you have to have another 25 hours to try to work through their objections, and then 6 years later they become a client. If you are trying to build a business, you're like, hey, here's the thing, this is what we're going to work on. Do you want it? Here's the price. That's the framework that you'll have to change when it comes to being efficient around your time. You simply cannot, risk spending too much time with any one client, because at the end of the day, if the client's a no, they're going to be a no. Yes, of course, you can finesse the people that are sitting kind of on the edges. But also, if you think about it, your role as a coach that's doing $30,000 to $50,000 a month is you don't want clients who you have to hold their hands. You don't want clients you have to call them and wake them up out of bed and give them, sweet morning kisses and nice bottle of tea in the morning, a cup of tea, and rub their back and tell them it's going to be okay and you can do this and it's so good and gosh, it's so upsetting that they spent money with you in the first. Like, you want people that will go out and do what you say. And when people come to you with, and again, I speak with very, very candid experience, you don't have time and you don't have actually like bandwidth to handle people that are not willing to go after what they want. Again, for the people who are the killer, you become a killer and then you attract the killers. Does that make sense? In that frame, you want people that are super motivated. So again, it's not about business coaching even. It's like you're working with people. Are they serious about getting their spouse? Are they serious about losing the weight? Are they serious about having the marital harmony they're looking for? Are they serious about growing their business, right? So you don't want people that you have to resell over and over again on the vision. So the idea is you want to not only be very efficient with your time, you also want to push people out more than you bring people in. And this has bitten me quite a few times, that I'll bring somebody in and then my expectation that they will not do what they have to do, it materializes. It costs me a ton of time. They wind up hating me anyway. So it's like, we're better off. Like, what's it supposed to be? So the idea is learn to be very efficient with time. And the more that you can move people through your system, the faster you can get the ones that are, yes, great, and they go do it. And the quicker you'll push out the ones that were, anyway, even if you you got them to hire you were going to be pains in the neck clients anyway. That's the concept of how you can play with time in order for you to create the $30,000 to $70,000 benchmark. We're going to go to income now. Here is how you make more money. Now, again, the easiest way to make money, just like the easiest way to make money is talk to people that know you, the easiest way to make more money is charge more money. That's number one. Or you have to build a scalable model. A scalable model means that you charge more, but it takes you less time. How do we practically do that? So again, it is a conscientious decision and you can't do both at the same time. One might lead to the other, and I'll explain how that works, but you have to know what kind of coach you want to be. Do you want to be an entrepreneur, which is you are going to build a system, a business that does not necessarily require you, or are you going to build a coaching practice, which is something that does require you all the time? And it's much more about quality and the relationship, or it's about quantity and the outcome. Right? Those are the two ways you want to think about it. What does that mean specifically? So for example, I have quite a few clients that they love the one-on-one work and they are, having built their business over time, see the value of the work and are then able to dramatically charge more for the one-on-one work. And what is charging a lot more? Their prices will start at $5,000 a month. Their charge will start at $10,000 a month. I have a client that charges £20,000 a month. He's in the UK, right? So again, he's charging lots of money. Now again, the two downsides of that, which is why I don't really love doing that, is A, you are still trading time for money, which again, for the entrepreneurially minded person is very, very difficult because it's hard. I don't like to be locked down. I don't like to have the conversation. So even if you pay me lots of money, I'm still going to have some internal resistance around actually having to do the delivery. And you don't want to build a business that you don't actually want to own. Does that make sense? So again, also, if you're charging a lot more money, you are going to have to be much better on the delivery. So again, if you have a client and they're paying you, $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, okay, so you'll do your best, and that's what happens. But if the client comes to you and they're like, dude, I'm paying you £20,000 a month, you have to make sure that guy is getting crazy returns. It's the same thing. It's just a matter of scale, right? So you have to make sure, okay, this person's really going to be able to say yes to a £20,000 month investment, and you have to realize like a lot of people, that's like a lot of money. That's over 20 grand a month, right? So the entrepreneur is always thinking to himself, like, is this person necessary for my growth? And as soon as the answer becomes no, like, I'm not going to, will I potentially keep a coach on for me in terms of my own coaching? Will I keep a coach if they're paying me, if I'm paying them like $1 to $2 grand a month, maybe a month or two longer than I need it? Yeah, like whatever, maybe I'll get something good out of it. But if I'm paying someone 20 grand, literally the first time it goes wrong, I'm done. Because I don't want to waste $20,000. That's a lot of money. Make sense? So that's the idea of the entrepreneur, of the scalable coach that's looking to grow in terms of the income they're charging per client. Now, my love, which again is not necessarily have to be your love, but I am always fascinated and I love the idea of creating a scalable model. The scalable model is exactly what you've just gone through, which is essentially now you know exactly who you help. You know exactly what your outcome is, and you know exactly the steps it takes to take a client from A to B. Now, those steps do not need to be repeated, taught by you every single client. In fact, it's annoying to do it after a while. So you have to break down your process. And again, if you're like, well, I don't know what my process is, you're not ready yet. But once you start to see your process, you break down your process into 8 to 12 chapter, so to speak, right? Again, literally exactly what I did. And again, it's not that I came up with it. I just exactly copied all the other people that are making all the money I want, right? So again, you go into Cole Gordon's program, you go in a John Madsen program, you go into Jeremy Miner's program. Like these guys, again, they're multi-million-dollar per month businesses, and the way that they run their deliverables is exactly the same way I run my deliverable. So essentially, you're going to have a hybrid of a few different ideas. You're going to have a curriculum, right? Which is going to enable people to go back and to review the material, that understand the system, go through it as much as possible. Secondly, you're going to want to have some level of a community that you will build and curate. You don't necessarily have to be operating in there all the time. What I'm also trying to do is to realize, again, going back to efficiency of time, what do you need to be there for and what do you not need to be there for? And so I'll always show you where you don't need to be there technically, right? Okay. So you have your curriculum, you have your community, and then you have your group. You have your group engagements where you bring all the people together. Again, if you have some kind of a business where you've created a frame for yourself where no one would talk about this in a group setting, right? Probably not a good fit for you. Again, not that no one will, but you don't think you will, so therefore not, right? So the idea would be you have curriculum, you have community, you have group calls, and then you can add in an element of one-on-one. I want to add just 2 or 3 practical components around that. You need to record the material most likely, or have someone who's really good, right, to record the material. In terms of the community, you can be there, you can make the rules for it. You don't have to be operating there if you don't want to. Sometimes it's even better that you don't. The third thing, because again, going back to efficiency of time, do you have time to spend hours in the DMs, just trying to, someone's like, my toenail hurt, like you don't have to respond to that, right? So, the third thing is the community calls. The reality is you don't even need to be there for that. John Madsen, who's charging, I believe it's a $6K or more price point for his engagement, he shows up on group calls once a month, right? And his coaches run the call. I'm going to come to that in a bit about hiring people, but there you go. And if you want him every single week, I believe at the time that I was familiar with it, it was a $10,000 price point, right? So you can do 6K and get me once a month, or for 10K, you can get me on a Zoom call every single week, right? Okay. Now, and also the one-on-ones you don't have to do. The one-on-ones can be done by someone you bring on board and hire, or you can say, whatever it might be. You can always do the one-on-ones, but again, you're going to start to run into this block around the fact that your business might be constricting your growth, and you can't have your business constrict your growth. So as soon as you start to feel that you're spending more time in the business as opposed to building the business, you've got to make that transition. I was going to say specifically also when it comes to income, you can charge more money if you are clear on the outcome. So if you don't know the outcome, which again, all of one-on-one coaching, it's like, I don't know exactly where we're going to go. But if you have a very clear outcome, that if you follow the system, you should expect this outcome, you can charge more money for it because it's a essentially guaranteed outcome. Does that make sense? Now, again, everyone's going to say, and I've said it a million times, you cannot control if people do the work. So that's not on you. And realize that in any given situation, there's an 80% rate of people that don't do the work and therefore don't get the results, or the results don't happen. That's just life. Something like 80, 90, 50%, crazy high level businesses fail. Why? Because most people aren't built to be entrepreneurs. What percentage of people stay the same even though they want to be different? Everybody pretty much, except you guys here listening to the call and a few select other people that are making all the money, right? So the reality is that most people are not going to actually get what they want. But if they are motivated, if they're actually willing to do it, they would be the kinds of people that would get the outstanding results. So because you're willing to offer a specifically curated outcome, you can be then going up and be data-driven. What are the pieces that actually get people there? Does that make sense? I'll give a practical story from my own business career as a way of illustration. So when my first high ticket group that I paid into was a $20,000 investment. As part of that, I got curriculum, I got group call, I got twice a week group call for 2 hours. I got a dedicated copy coach and a mindset coach. Now, at the end of the day, I love the copy coach. I love them, and you do not talk to the person that sold me the course. The course creator, the only way you can get to her was she was offered, it was a 4-hour investment, if that makes sense, per week on her time. So she was charging $20K. She was responsible for that to show up for 4 hours to a group of people, and that was the entirety. You do not talk, you do not talk to her for one-on-one. You do not talk to her for any questions about your business. If you have questions, she'll answer it in the group call. That's it. So again, that's a highly efficient model because if you have, let's say 10 people paying you $20K for a 8-week program, so that's, again, let me do the math, that's $10K, and you have got 10 people, so you're making $100,000 a month, and you have to work 4 hours on Zoom. That's pretty cool. I'd take that deal, right? So I looked at that, right? So then I said to myself, okay, $20K, if someone's gonna pay me $20K, they're gonna need these other like one-on-one coaches. Now, that might have worked for what she was building, but for what I found, having done my work, I did not actually see so she was working already, you already had a business, you want to scale your business. So what I found was you don't need copy when you're starting your business because at the end of the day, like your marketing is you can talk to people. So I definitely right away ruled out copy coach. But a mindset coach I thought was super important. Now, what I realized was there was no significant difference between the people that got and again, in the beginning of my program, it was like an hour, you had 4 1-hour mindset calls. Now, what I found was there was no significant difference between the people that got the calls and did not get the calls. But what had actually happened was it was disincentivizing people how to be entrepreneurs because they were starting to treat my business like therapy and life coaching as opposed to how do we build your business. In addition, it cost me a lot of money, because either I was doing it or I had hired multiple mindset coaches and I was paying them a lot of money. So the outcome was not in any way measurably different than if we took the whole thing out. So therefore I took it out. Why? Because it's not necessary. And for those of you that worked with me later and like more close to the current day versus my first iterations, you'll know it's very true. I'm very, very practical when I talk to people now. It's like, what's your problem? Where do you want to get to? And how do we move forward as fast as possible? In the old days, the reason why I shut my mindset thing off was a client of mine sat down and he said, okay, well, I know we have this hour, so let's think about what we need to work on. I'm like, oh my God. And then here's the number one killer of entrepreneurs. After we had solved every single problem this guy had, we solved this marriage problem, we solved this business problem, we solved this fitness problem, we talked about, world events. It was like, 42 minutes into the call. It's like, well, since I've got you for another 18 minutes, it's like, get out of here with that, right? If you want to build a business that's based around an outcome, you don't necessarily want that amount of time. Does that make sense? That's what I found. So again, that's the concept of a scalable model that will allow you to work with lots of people and save up a lot of your time and make a lot more money. From my perspective, that's the ideal model because it creates a lot more stability and ability to earn more. Now, I was going to say the last thing is if you have a very clear outcome and you have a very clear process, you can start to play with what Jay Abraham calls risk reversal. I'm sure he didn't come up with the name, but the essential idea is how do you start allowing and putting into your process guarantees that would allow someone to say yes easier. If you have a process and you have a clear outcome, a guarantee would be something like you will make 10K in your first 3 months. How in the world if you follow the system? Now again, the ifs are going to be everything. The asterisk is everything, right? Because I've had plenty of people come in, do none of the work, get none of the results, and then think that I screwed them over and they should get their money back or that it didn't work or I should work with them forever. It's like, no, this doesn't work if you don't do it. And you have to make that clear up front. That said, again, if you're watching it, if you're running 30-30 and you're running CCDC, it is literally physically, spiritually, emotionally impossible for you not to get to $10,000 a month within the first 3 months, right? I have never had someone that's done that and said, I never got there. And I said, I'll work for you for free until then. Or, does that make sense? What I know though is most people don't do it. Right? So I can tell people what they have to do. And the people, again, going back to the fact that 80% of people probably won't do what they have to do to get to where they want to go. They might start 30-30 in week 6, right? Okay, so you didn't follow your side of the deal. So the reframe would be get your process down, know exactly what people need to do in order to get, again, if you want to lose 2 pounds a week to 2 pounds a week and hit your fitness goals, again, here's what it's going to take. You have to keep your calories below this thing. You'll have to potentially write down everything you have to eat. You have to follow a very clear list. And if it's not on the list, it doesn't go in your mouth, right? You have to do these approved workouts for this approved period of time. If you do that, the thing breaks down into a science. It is literally impossible. And I could say, lose 50 pounds by 6 months from now or get your money back. Guaranteed. Now, that's awesome because the person will be like, oh my God, or I won't pay, or whatever it might be. So you can do that. The downside is though, the upside is, of course, that people can feel very proud to invest the money because they know the outcome is guaranteed. The only downside is that, well, I don't really know what the downside is because dealing with customers that don't want to take responsibility is kind of something that every business person deals with. So I don't really see a downside, but that's the benefit of being able to offer a risk reversal or, again, you can do this because you'll know where the process goes. Okay, we're going to keep going a little bit more, and I just want to go through the other 2 components of how to scale your business. The first thing, the third piece is people. Right? So another way you can scale your business is to have people come in. Now, the question is what people and at what price? Okay? That's the biggest thing. It's crazy because most coaching businesses that I've seen, been a part of and worked with have actually not gone out of business because they ran out of clients. They went out of business because either there was not enough profit or because they did not budget their personal life well enough. So I've had multiple people come, and again, it's actually part of the program I put in there, but not, again, what percentage of people go through all the material, right? Again, I'm assuming 20% make it all the way through. That's why I say on the Discovery Call, I'm very upfront with people. I'm like, look, you got to do the system, you got to watch the thing, you got to do it. If you're not doing it, that's on you. But what I've seen is consistently that that when it comes to what messes up clients, again, it's either personal finances or it's not enough profit in the business. What I'm going to talk about now might kill your business because it's going to screw up your profits. But I'll say the first thing is, if you do not allocate for taxes, you will be out of business really quickly. Because again, I'm not an accountant. You got to get an accountant. You got to get a lawyer. I can recommend people that might be able to help. This is not financial or legal advice, but what I can tell you is, if you don't allocate for taxes, you can get hit with a bill for, I've gotten hit with a $30,000 bill, a $100,000 bill for taxes. And like, if you don't have that money allocated and put aside, like, where's $100,000 going to come from? Like, literally, where does $100,000 come from? I don't know, right? So the only way you have to have it is if you have an actual accounting system. I had a wonderful guy that I love so much, and he's the best. And he literally had to get a job afterwards because, like, yeah, he was making $15,000 a month, but he had never been a business owner. And so as a result, like, he didn't have the money when the government came, and he had to go back and get money. So that is bad. Don't do that. Actually get a financial plan. Where it comes to screwing up your profit margin is, again, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you can keep. So every single time you hire an employee, you want to make sure that they are going to dramatically increase the value of the company. Otherwise, they will just eat away at the profit, and then you're not really taking much at all. So like when I was doing my one-on-one business, I based my only expense, my one-on-one business at its height was doing about $65,000 a month. Again, that was a lot. It was too many clients. I was not having great quality of life, but it was $65,000 a month of profit. And I had I think I was paying her $2,500 a month per personal assistant. And she did tech, and she did calls, and she did whatever. And that was what she did. So again, that's a super profitable business. You go tell anybody that's impressive, right? But what happens is, as you go on, if you hire coaches to work under you, like we talked about, if you have salespeople that work under you, all of these things could theoretically, if you're not careful, referral partners eat into your profit, which means that whenever you think about who you're going to hire, you always want to hire people, A, that will be income generating versus eating into the profit that you already generated. So that's the first thing, right? If you're going to hire someone, will this help me or the company make more money? As opposed to, will this be nice necessarily? Again, you always want to generate money first and then fix the thing that you've generated second. Because if you spend all the time trying to iterate and build the perfect mousetrap and you're not getting clients and you're not profitable, guess what, my friends? You are out of business. So instead of getting 30 to 70K a month, you're going to be at 0 to 0K a month. And you don't want to do that. Or 0 to 5K a month. Even if your revenue, right, the amount of money you collect is lots of money, if you're not running something profitable, and again, I can't tell you, off the top of my head, I'm thinking of at least 4 examples where, again, including that first company that I was telling you about where it was a $20,000 investment, there was so much overhead, right? There was so much money being spent on all of the things that ultimately the business went out and under. And so that was a big issue, right? So you want to spend money on things that make you money, which again, it could be you would want to bring, again, at $50K a month, maybe we'll talk about you hiring a salesperson. At 30K a month, maybe a salesperson. I don't really think that's a good use. Again, like I mentioned, if you're at the, let's say, like 70 to 100K months, yeah, for sure you need salespeople. You got to be able to train the salespeople because you'll have a process around sales because you're very good at sales in order to get to that number, right? But again, it could be hiring coaches underneath you. It could be providing, very heavy JV deals, which essentially says like, hey, you can go to someone and you say, look, my program is a $4,000 program. If you bring someone in, it's $2K. Now, again, I would never make that kind of agreement unless the person who's getting the $2K is literally going to approach it like it's a job and there's some kind of a benchmark. Hey, I'm going to send you 20 clients a month. Cool. I'm happy to split, that much money. If you're sending me the clients, you got to figure that out. So in terms of getting your referrals down, getting your joint ventures down, you just want to, whenever you're spending money, it's always better to split part of a non-existent yet profit versus coming out of your pocket. I cannot tell you, and then this is just a word to the wise, once you start becoming somewhat successful, and somewhat successful means I'm making over 10 grand a month, let's say reliably, or 15K a month reliably, how many people want to come to you and ask you to give them money, right? Oh, I can make your program better like this. I can help your clients like that. I can help you like that. again, those are all money out of the account, where for sure the only thing that you know for sure will happen, again, I'm telling you this because I've lost literally like 3 years of my life and over $1 million making these mistakes, right? The only thing that this actually costs you, for the only guaranteed thing is you're paying them. Whether or not they paid you back, like that, you don't know. So you always want to be very careful. Number one, it's like marketing. Don't spend money you can't afford to lose. And usually you have to figure out, okay, I'm willing. I always approach every investment like, if I make nothing back, can I afford it, right? So if you're going to make a hire, how long can this person not perform before you're out of business? Does that make sense? So if you're hiring a coach to work underneath you, or you're hiring someone to help you with social media, let's say nothing happened. Again, so many people come because everyone's trying to get out of the difficulty grind of like going out and actually prospecting, actually building a business, right? So everyone comes, I want to hire the social media marketing company. Awesome. Again, if a social media marketing company is charging you under $5,000 a month, they're not very good in most cases, right? You have to get really, really lucky. So assume if they're like, hey, yeah, it's gonna be 1K or 2K a month plus, a percentage of the business plus ad spend, again, which are all things that we can discuss, not in this particular training. Then you probably are going to get no results. And so it's cool. Can I afford to lose $2,000 a month for the next 12 months and get no money back? And if the answer is like no, then don't spend the money and figure out a way to do it cheaper. That's on who you're hiring. So again, always think about who do I need to, what are the different positions of my company? What are things I can get myself out of? What are things that I can automate? And what are the things that I actually need someone to come in and help? So again, usually, from my perspective, the most important things that you do need to spend money on is actually get a bookkeeper to make sure your business is taken care of. Going back to that first thing I said about the number one thing you lose is money. Does that make sense? If your personal finances are not in order, again, like, this is a whole theme. You're going to raise your standard of living to, I have to make at least 30K to like survive, right? As opposed to I need to make like 3K to survive, right? You're raising your standard of living. You better make sure that actually happens. So if that is, you have to set up a system or someone that's responsible for collecting the money, making sure that's happening, watching your money, making sure that's happening, putting your money, making sure you have enough money. That would be the number one thing I think is important to spend money on, is making sure someone can watch your money. The second thing you want to spend money on is how do you make yourself more time efficient, which would potentially be hiring some kind of a virtual assistant, right? The third thing I would spend my money on is, I'm going to get to tech in a second because tech would be something to spend money on. The fourth thing that I would spend money on potentially would be marketing help. The fifth thing would be sales help. The sixth thing would be bringing a coach in. So again, I'm like very not into you bringing a coach for the program because again, I haven't seen how effective that can be at a profitable level. Okay. I just hopefully want to explain that concept. That's who you hire. I want to go to the final component of the presentation today, which is the concept of tech, right? Now, what is tech? So if you're here and you've been paying attention up until now, you'll know that I am dramatically, radically furious about people that spend money on websites, people that spend money on marketing, people that spend money on ad spend, people that want, I'm going to do the book launch VSL. Like I know the game. It doesn't work. It never works. It will never work. And people are making millions and millions of dollars off of you, it not working, right? So don't be like the people that waste all their money. Here's what you do need. Again, in the beginning, you don't need a website. Why? Because you don't know what to say on the website. Why? Because you don't have your ideal client, you don't have your ideal process, and you're just going to be wasting your time and money probably building out a site. But once you have clarity on who I help, how I help them, who am I, what's my process, awesome. You need a website. Now everyone's like, website. The reality is website is very similar to certification. It might make you feel better, but it doesn't actually make you any money. Why? Because a website's like a random address on the internet. Like how are you gonna, if I invite you to come to my house, right, and you know where I live, so then like, how are you gonna find my house, right? So, and assume, again, if you're ranking in Google, if you're ranking with SEO, that's very hard to do. So your website is not going to be able to do it. Let's just assume you can't do it. And if you want to be able to do it, you're going to spend a lot more money on getting to like hundreds of thousands of dollars getting something that'll rank one on Google. Trust me. That was a $10,000 mistake. Hopefully you guys, I just saved you from. Okay, it doesn't work. Secondly, so the job of the website is actually functionality and to both more or less work as a virtual assistant. Write that down and underline it. So the job of what you actually want to build with your website is the job of essentially a virtual assistant. So the job of the virtual assistant is, again, the website shouldn't just be a pretty thing where you could have a big, nice picture of your family. The website should be functional. Underline this 3 times. So when you drop your site, what should be on the site? Number one, you should have a train. You need what is called a lead magnet. A lead magnet is get this free thing training in exchange for your email and your information, right? That's one thing. Why will that be important? Because people can meet you, people can understand how you work, and then you can start something called a nurture sequence where when you're working with more people, right, you can get a free training and then you can get follow-up trainings. The follow-up trainings will include client testimonials. The following trainings will include other, deeper insights, more resources. So by the time you actually get on the call with the person, which is the second functionality of what that site has to have, they're talking to someone they know, and they're like, "Whoa, the celebrity's here!" Right? Now you're not a celebrity; you're just a guy that records, or a girl that records, or a woman that records YouTube videos and then uploads it into the site. But because it's like essentially they've had 100 conversations with you, and usually by that time they trust you, they know you, and they know that the system will work with you. One of my most successful clients. She's a rock star. She came on and she's like, "Hey, you said on the 40th page of your book," and I'm like, "Holy moly! Like this lady's gonna become a client, right?" And she did, because she had so invested herself in my process that by the time we were having a conversation, she had already sold herself, and she went on to build an incredibly profitable coaching career. Okay, so the job of the website, first of all, is to do lead capture. Meaning lead capture. Like I come to your website, like, do you have my information? If no, it's like, nice website, it's worthless, right? Do you have my information? What do you do with information? So information should create a nurture sequence to give you more value so that when we actually do talk, you're ready to go much more than I am. It's also supposed to work as a scheduler, meaning how the heck do you meet me? Oh, cool. Here's the link. Now that link, as opposed to randomly sending a Calendly link, if you do it properly, they come to your website, they can book a call, and then they get all of these automated reminders and updates and all these kinds of things, and also free trainings that are going to come and prepare you for the call. You can make a video that's going to say, "Hey, on the call, this is what we're going to cover." So the whole thing is essentially working as a virtual assistant to confirm your meetings, to give them more value, and to make sure that they're there, and also to ping you so you don't forget about this person. That's the third thing, which is essentially a CRM. A CRM, the job of a CRM is to keep track of everybody that you talk to, right? So that is going to include, again, once you're operating at a $30,000 to $70,000 business, you hopefully should be talking to a lot of people all the time, and you probably forget everybody if you're me. So if you don't have the CRM, you're lost. If you have random sheets of paper with names on it, which is how I run most of my business all the time, right? Until I've been now, thank God, I'm so excited I can actually look at a spreadsheet and know exactly what's going on, right? You need to have an understanding of who your clients are and where in the sales process are they, right? And so that's the job of a CRM, is to know who are my clients and where in the sales process are they, so that you can have a realistic system to go back and not to forget all of the people that you didn't talk to. I'm giving you this took me about 8 years to learn. So be better than me and do it in less than that time. That's the job of a CRM. If you want to do what we talked about, the scalable process of having the course, right? Of having that scalable model of coaching, you're going to want the site to also be hosting that. The site to also be hosting like your course, so people can come in, people can interview. You can also have the community be there. I happen to find that WhatsApp might be better, but you can also host a community in there. So the idea is your tech should be functional. And again, everything I'm saying, right, for a nominal, now that we're using technology and AI and stuff like that, for a nominal setup fee and then kind of a small monthly retainer, you can get what I was paying my virtual assistant, basically $2,500 a month to do. And also I paid all of the tech fees on top of that. So nowadays you can definitely use technology. Again, I would highly recommend, highly recommend that unless you're super clear on the fundamentals of your business and you're making $5K a month, it's not worth it to do it now. But once you have that, again, going back to the very first thing that we talked about in terms of mindset, you want to treat it like a business, and it's a business. And if you're going to make $50,000 a month, you best be sure that you have the tech to back it up, and you best be sure you have the mindset to back it up, right? And the mindset to back it up is this is actually my business. This is my virtual address. This is my virtual storefront. Come on in. Oh, and the last thing that it should do is collect payments, right? So again, you want to have a pay option on the site where people can buy through your site, right? Or you can enter their information through the site, and then that site will be automated, and you'll get pings if their credit card bounces, which a lot of people do, or they're bounce in the third month, which it might, and therefore you'll be able to always be checking in and see where people are. So that's the value of actually what tech can do, which should automate quite a few of the other processes and make it good and financially efficient. Anything else, just a website, it's a waste of time. The other thing I would say is, finally, don't do it on your own. Underline it. Don't do it on your own. Underline that. Don't do it on your own. Unless you love tech and you're really good at it, don't do it on your own. It's so much more efficient to hire someone that knows what they're doing to do it. If you need help with that, I can make a recommendation. But you should not do it on your own. That's the framework. So again, just to go back, in order to go from 30 to 70K, you have to upgrade your mindset. You have to understand how to use your time properly, the income models of your business, the proper hires for your business, and then how to properly leverage technology in your business. And if you can do that, it should be easy and effortless to move from the 5 to 10K. It's not effortless and it's not easy, but you can do it. From 5 to 10K a month to, $30 to $70,000 a month. That's that framework. I was going to say one other thing. And in service of that, I'm building out sort of that phase 2, but it's got to be, those are the things we're really going to focus on. It's going to come down to, do you have that CEO? Do you have that owner mentality? Do you have the ability to build, the willingness to build out the higher profitable models? Are you willing to charge more? Are you willing to be more efficient? And are you willing to leverage and use the technology for it? So if you are in that stage, again, the best thing ever that I've found is, and I've said this only a million times, is you are always going to be your best client. And so if you're the kind of person that invests once and says, I've already paid, I'm not paying any more money, guess what you're going to find? All of your clients are not going to grow, and you're probably going to go out of business, God forbid, but it's true, right? Because you are not willing to consistently invest in yourself. If I've done anything well that I'm proud of, it's that I've never stopped investing in myself. I've gone into debt multiple times doing it. And because I believe in myself, because I believe in my ability to learn and to change and to bring on people, I've been able to consistently grow my business. So if you are the kind of person that says, okay, cool, I've learned it, now let me try it on my own, awesome and good luck to you, and the business is probably going to go under. The reality is, even if it's not working with me, you should always have someone who's going to be helping you grow your business and helping you grow your business in the areas that you need help with actually. Again, it's much easier, and this is also super important. You want to think to yourself, what do I actually need? And so if what you actually need is an outcome, right, which as you're scaling, that's what you want to be focusing on. You yourself also need that outcome-based framework. You might need therapy. You might need life coaching. That doesn't necessarily have to be part of the container that you spend for the scaling thing. So that's kind of the framework of what I would like to offer as sort of the follow-up for, not like I would like to offer, I am offering is, let's just get you there. And that would include mindset, strategy, marketing, and tech. And then obviously the sales process also changes a lot because you have a clear process and you know how to get there. So the sales process is also much better. So if that'd be helpful for you, there's a link somewhere on this call, or reach out to me. And I'm so excited to serve you going forward. That is the official end of this presentation. Thank you for being here, and wishing you all the best.